Hi, everybody. This is Steve Bazat at IQMS. I'm the head of marketing here. Welcome to the IQMS webinar. Coming up, we're going to run about a 45-minute program. The first thing that's going to happen is we're going to have a couple of brief comments from Juan Hernandez at Monoflow. Juan has successfully transitioned from the DTR system to the IQMS system, and he's going to say a couple words. And then the large body of the webinar will be conducted by Heather Peru, who is a senior manager here at IQMS. She's going to do an overview demo of our product. And then again, at the end, we'll take questions via the question bar. During the webinar, the attendees, participants, will be muted to ensure the best sound quality. If your phone has a mute button, you might just punch it in case we get any feedback loops going, and that will give us the best sound quality. So we'll go ahead with Juan. You're on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Juan Hernandez. I'm the IT manager at Monoflow International. Monoflow has been in the plastics injection molding industry over 4 decades. More recently, we've also started plastic reprocessing. We are headquarters in Winchester, Virginia. We have 2 plants, one in Virginia and one in Kansas. We deal mostly with plastic pallets, food distribution containers, automotive manufacturing containers, retail distribution, DC automation, and so on. We have over 40 injection molding machines, all ranging from 150 tons to 2,700 tons, over 300 employees at both facilities. We used DTR TMM for about 10 years before we switched over to IQMS in 2007. Most of the issues that we had was the lack of flexibility in the system. DTR was very strict in its processes and ways, so we had issues with not being able to get scheduling to work properly. Out of issues with costing, not too much flexibility in the system to be able to make changes and adapt to the different manufacturing processes that we had going within our injection molding environment. Also, there were no real internal built-in real-time monitoring capabilities, which is something that we were very adamant about. We needed to be able to see what was going on the floor, and not being able to have that real-time capability kind of prevented us from being able to really interact with the system and make some quick decisions that needed to be made. We always had to have people out on the floor looking at things and reporting back, and it was just a lot of overhead. Another one of the big things that this system didn't have, it was no scanning or barcoding capabilities, no type of warehouse management or anything like that. And I think that IQMS kind of incorporated all of that into one product that we can use. Another big thing for us was lack of reporting. Our reporting was very limited or very difficult to get reports out of the system. So IQMS pretty much proved to address every one of those deficiencies, as well as provide the most well-rounded solution at the best pricing for us. And we looked at other solutions. We looked at the other product from Made to Manage. We looked at Epicor. We looked at M1. And at the end of the day, Heather kind of proved to us that the IQMS system was the right fit for Monoflow because, again, it addressed all our issues and gave us a lot of growth potential there. So there it is.
All right, well, thank you, Juan. And Heather, you have the command.
Awesome, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. I'm really excited to get to tell you about the system. As Juan mentioned, I was actually their salesperson back in the day, so I'm very familiar with that account. I am currently a regional sales manager with IQMS. And IQMS, based on our time today, I'm going to try and give you a quick overview of the system, tell you a little bit about the company, how we do things, and also we have converted many, many customers off of the TMM product over the years. And I think that's something that for a lot of companies is a daunting thought as they go through potentially looking at changing ERP systems, is how am I going to get stuff out of my existing system that makes sense, and where do I start clean, and am I going to have a company who can help me through that? So we have a lot of expertise on our staff here with companies who formerly either used TMM or have worked with companies like Monoflow, for example, to convert companies from TMM to Enterprise IQ. We're very familiar with the file layouts and names and things like that. So, we're familiar with what an SOXF1 is and, where the data is and the terminology and labeling that system uses. A little bit about IQMS. IQMS has been around over 26 years. Today I'm joining you from the office in Charlotte, but our corporate is in California, in lovely Paso Robles. And then we also have an office, training and sales office in Chicago, as well as sales and training in Charlotte, as I mentioned. One thing that I have heard from many of the companies that have made the transition is the ability to come onto an ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, and MES, Manufacturing Execution System, that's fully integrated. So they've been using some type of ERP in the past, like TMM, and a lot of times that product isn't being supported moving forward or isn't giving them all the functionality that they need, as Juan had mentioned for his company. So one thing, I'm not going to be able to show all of this today, but what I wanted to let you know is the slide that's up currently is really what I consider the Enterprise IQ universe. It's the major parts and pieces that are available. And what we do as a company is, if you're interested in looking at our product, we come out on site, no obligation. We'll do a demonstration with some of your data and really do a full day in the life, quote to cash, using your data, so your team gets a familiarity and a comfort level on how your stuff could work. But what we find, as I was mentioning, is people are a lot of times ready to not just change that ERP system, but to move on to improving their processes and having more functionality and automating more things. So that's where I think a real strength for IQMS as a company and Enterprise IQ. We developed a lot of those pieces ourselves. So with products like TMM and other ones out there, you have to go to a third-party company to get barcode scanning or to do machine monitoring, for example. Those are all things that are available with us. So at a high level, just hitting on some of the things that other packages may or may not have, web portal capabilities, EDI fully integrated. So a lot of our customers deal with automotive, medical, consumer goods, and they're being asked to do EDI. We have our own fully integrated embedded EDI solution. On the quality side of things, if you're dealing with any of those highly regulated industries, again, automotive, medical, pharma, et cetera, you may be looking to implement a more advanced quality offering. So our quality suite has everything from, MRBs and deviations to APQP, PPAPs, et cetera. What's very nice about the quality system is we give you both kind of the standard offering as well as the medical offering. So if you are playing in the medical industry, they call it a CAPA versus a corrective action. And, the terminology, the lingo, the labeling is appropriate for those industries. Another big piece that's, really important and that we see most companies taking advantage of is the real-time production monitoring. We have the ability, very cost-effective, starting at about $200 a work center machine piece of equipment, where we can actually tie into your machines on the shop floor and pull production information. So, most companies, when I start talking to them, they've got paperwork that goes to the floor, and they've got this production information, and somebody, if they're really good, it gets put in at the end of the shift. If they're like most companies, goes to the office, somebody keys it in the next day, and then, oh, by the way, I can't read what Bob, my floor guy, put down. Is that a 7 or a 1? And your numbers are already off, before they even got further than somebody keying them in. So we've got that ability to pull information from equipment. And basically feed the production, update the parts, whether it's finished good, whips, et cetera, produce, backflush those consumed materials, and have it be real time so you see if you're performing the way you should be. We also can go to the level of process monitoring where we're looking for process information. So I just wanted to put this up there so you guys get an idea of parts and pieces that we have available. But when we work with each individual company, our goal is to basically configure this for you in a way that makes sense. Do you need payroll? Do you want to do preventive maintenance? What parts are you interested in? Now, since I'm not there with each of you, I'm going to be going into the software in just a minute, but I wanted to show some of the ways people can access the software. I'm not sitting there in front of you with my smartphone, and you can't see me hitting the button. So we have put some screenshots in here to give you an idea of how people can access the system and with what different types of hardware. So starting on the left-hand side, we have what's called our Smart Page user interface. This is really geared towards your power users, your front office individuals. They may have their daily calendar here. They may have what I call, speed jumps or icons to various areas in the software. So maybe I'm, the scheduling purchasing person. I'm going to have my icon for the schedule and for inventory and for purchase orders. And these are really customized to each person and what their job functions are. So when I log in, my interface screen is going to look very different than, say, Juan's or Steve's that was talking earlier, because we work in different areas of the company and care about watching different things. We also have a whole toolbox of performance, analytic, KPIs, key performance indicators, and BI, business intelligence tools that I can be watching speedometers, charts, graphs. Just depends on what type of interface you like. I have a lot of people who want very simplistic, basically stoplights. Anything that's green is good. If it's red, I got a problem, and yellow is a warning I'm getting within whatever that threshold may be. It could be days, dollars shipped, or backlog, or reject reporting, depending on what your job function is. But each person can choose an interface that makes sense for them. So I really consider it my control panel of the day. I can have my internet browser in there. As I mentioned, I'm looking at my calendar, and I'm also working in the software without having to go in and out of multiple applications. Below the Smart Page user interface, there is what's called the Windows shop floor user. So one of the things we've realized is we need to get timely, good information to the people out on the shop floor, but they don't need all these metrics and email and everything else. They need a more simplified screen that's easier for them to use. So when you look at this lower left-hand corner block that says Windows Shop Floor User, you'll notice that there's a big color band of green running through there. That means that we happen to be at our work center number 2, which is a Cincinnati 100-ton machine, and it's showing me that if it's green, it's good. It's running within its standards. It's where I want it to be. Those colors will change based on different things happening. If it's running slow, if it's running fast, if the machine's down. It's giving me all kinds of detailed information as a person on the floor that I may need to know what my last 50 cycles look like, the ability to put notes in. So again, a lot of companies we go to, they'll have a notebook out on the floor and they're putting notes in there. This allows them to do it here. And then a series of buttons below that bar that basically has things like rejects. It's a trash can. So if they're going to reject some product, they're doing it right then live as it happens. We've got a downtime option. It's a clock with a down arrow. So we try to use big buttons, universal symbols, things that make it very user-friendly on the shop floor. Now, coming to the right of this slide, there are also additional ways you can get to the information in the system, whether they need to view it or actually enter information. So those two were both running in a normal computer environment, running Windows environment, running on a computer. In the top right, you'll notice smartphones. I live with mine nowadays. I've got applications that run right there, so I'm able to access the Enterprise IQ system right from my phone. Look up customers, prospects, approve purchase order requisitions. We have workflows built into the system. So that's a big thing nowadays. You'll hear me talking about workflows when I go in the software in a minute. But all kinds of functionality that can be done right from your phone. Below that, wireless warehouse management system, scanning. A lot of companies are going to the ability to scan, shipping, receiving, inventory transfers, cycle counting. And you can see we have two different interfaces there, because if you already have scanning capability and own equipment, we can use that and just basically use your existing equipment to run our applications. The last one I'll mention is what's called the shop floor real-time stations. So they look very similar to a tablet. We can run on tablets, and a lot of people like that. They may have their QC person out there floating around with a tablet, but then we had a lot of people say, I like the look and feel of what you can do with tablets nowadays. I'm afraid my people are going to walk off with them. They're going to get dropped. They're going to get broken. So one thing that is very unique about IQMS as a company is what we call our real-time stations. It's basically a 10.1-inch screen, so same size as a standard tablet, but it's in an industrial case, and they're meant to be out on a shop floor. What makes this very unique is IQMS as a company makes those. So similar to our customers who have to produce a product and they deal with purchasing requisitions and they deal with RMAs and they deal with having to schedule operations and make things, we actually make this product at our campus in California. So we've got molded body parts, we've got control panels that go in there, we've got stamped metal brackets that are part of this, and we do all the testing and assembly and packaging and shipping just like you are doing with your products out of our facility. That makes us a really good user of our own system, so we deal with the same things that you guys need to deal with day to day. Lead times, inventory levels, safety stock, we do all that also. So those are just options for accessing the system. Since I'm not there in front of you and you can't be showing you my Surface Pro or my tablet or my smartphone, I wanted you to know that those are options that are available for you. Now what I'm going to do is actually go into the software. And one thing I will mention is you can have the desktop that I'm going to show in a moment, or you could have what we call speed buttons. So some companies may have maybe a shipping and receiving individual or their QC person or somebody else that they don't want to have this big elaborate dashboard like I'm showing right now. They could have a speed button that literally is receiving, and they hit the button and it opens the receiving screen for them, and that's all Joe in receiving sees. For the purpose of the demo today, I am actually going to work in the Smart Page and show you a little bit of the functionality there, how you set it up, how easy it is to use. But realize that this can be completely tailored to the individual user. You can have different look and feel by user, also security. So if I'm, an operations person, or maybe I'm the purchasing person, I can see those areas of the software that I need to see. I can lay out the screen the way I want, but I could have total lack of ability to get into AR, AP, GL. Those are locked down. I don't have access to those. So keep in mind, you can make this as robust a screen as you want, or as simplified just based on who the user is and what their job functions are. So the first screen that I happen to come in, and I know when we're on demonstrations, people are looking at these through screen windows, things like that. I've got this set up so I've put basically kind of one functional area on each screen so you could see it larger. But realize as I start showing you this, you might just have one screen and have 4 or 5 different things on that one screen. The screen I'm looking at right now is what we call our plant floor layout. So as you set up the system, we know all the equipment that you've built work centers for. So I mean, it could be stamping machines, assembly tables, sonic welding, printing, a QC test area, whatever you happen to have set up in your environment. And I've got the ability to choose those and literally drag and drop them, as you can see on this screen, and lay it out just like it looks out on my plant floor. And we have a lot of people nowadays, they actually put this screen on a big flat panel for all the employees to see. When I'm looking at this, I can see the machines doing different things. So this top left Toshiba is actually alarming right now. On that machine, I'm running process monitoring. When I see something like that, I can right-click, and you will see the power of right-click as we go through the system, and jump to all these different areas. So we as a company really tried to think of all the places you might need to go or want to go when you're looking at the software. So if I wanted to look at the alarm details or go to the schedule or look at the work order information, things like that, I can do that right from this screen. But quickly, at a high level, when I'm looking at this, I know green is good, green is lean. This machine, speed, performance, efficiency, yield, it's running where I want it to run. Black is running faster than standard, and again, depending on what your process is, that just means you could be making a lot of bad product really quickly out of spec. Red is running slower than standard. So when I see red, I know that that job is running slower than I would expect, and I may start receiving some automatic notifications either through emails or reports or even paging over a PA system. We've got the ability to let people know that because it may be causing future jobs. Maybe I've got a job that was supposed to be done at 5 o'clock today, and it's running so slow that it's not going to be done till 4 o'clock in the morning, and that is going to cause the next job to be late, and it's a domino effect. As soon as I start seeing those things and they start impacting other things in my schedule, it can start notifying you of that. So it will let you know, hey, maybe I need to go into the schedule and make some adjustments. So we use a bunch of different color codes in the system that when you see them, you know what that means: fast, slow, the machine's down, the machine's in setup. I mean, we even have utilities for when a person is out on the shop floor through that shop floor screen I was talking about, and they're doing a setup. We know for that job, a normal setup is, say, 2 hours. There's a countdown clock. So from 2 hours down till it hits 0, it's in the green, and then it starts counting up, and we know that that employee is taking longer than what's standard. And it's very interesting how the visual cues can really impact people and their performance. So again, we try to give you different ways to see different things, but this is a look into the shop floor and what's happening out there. Another thing that you'll hear a lot about nowadays is what we call pending approvals or workflows. So you can see I just had a tab here at the top that I set up that talks about workflows. And to add these tabs, it's very, very easy. Again, I want to stress that because a lot of people feel overwhelmed with setting up a new system and doing things like that. You'll notice at the top that as I hover over these, there are different what we call speed buttons. These are areas of the software that I might want to access, like my Outlook inbox, software shortcuts, KPIs and charts, RSS feeds, a weather widget, things like that can all be accessed. When I select one of those, it drops it, and then I can choose how I want to lay it out on the screen and how things are set up. So there happens to be one for workflows. And this is basically, I always tell people, this is my automatic checklist for the day, or my Letterman top 10 of the day. When I come in the morning, the system is already queued up for me, everything that is immediately requiring me to take a look at it or my assistance. So when I take a look, I've got purchase requisitions that are requiring my approval. If we come down, I've got documents that are waiting to be released, so I need to review each of these documents. I've got corrective actions that maybe somebody's signing off on these for. So again, depending on the mix of modules that you use in our system, in your configuration, what you purchase, I even have an expense report that I need to approve for one of my people. It has dropped these right into my queue so I can take a look at them. So for example, there's a corrective action here. I can open that corrective action, so I just selected it. It brought it up. It tells me the information. It tells me the item that it's referring to. So this is for a guide connector for our customer ABCO. I've got an area here where I could put a bunch of notes or response into the record itself. But the important part is it also sent me this checklist. The checklist is my ability to say, these are the things I need to do. When this happens, this is what needs to be done for me or for multiple people. So with these workflows, it can be going to a single person or it could be going to a group of individuals. And it could be that it requires both Steve and myself to sign off, and we do that in a broadcast manner that we both receive it, we go through, we sign off, and great, it's done. Or it could be a sequential workflow where it says, it requires me to sign off and then Steve, but if I don't sign off on it, he won't ever see it until I've signed off on it. So I can come in here, I can authorize this, I can do my parts, and then it moves it on to the next person in the process. This is a very powerful tool because we give you canned ones that come with the system for particular modules, so things like corrective actions, deviations, material review boards. But there's also a more generic tool that you can set up, for example, like in CRM, the process for when you sign up a new customer. Maybe accounting needs to do their part with setting up terms. Sales needs to make sure the correct contacts are in there. You can generate your own workflows for processes that you want to automate within your organization. So just wanted to show that this is a part of the system. Again, you can use these workflows throughout the system and really automate a lot of these processes. The last tab here where I've got Heather's Daily Tasks, this is basically a blank tab that I've set up with some areas of the software we show frequently when we're in demos: sales orders, inventory, bills of materials, scheduling, etc. But to build these screens, again, configure shortcuts. I hit the little button here. It gives me a listing of all the areas that I have turned on capabilities to get to. So based on my security, these are all the areas of the software I can get to. Now that's a pretty robust list, and I don't want to have to hunt and peck and, if I'm trying to find a certain piece. So what we do allow you to do is filter these based on different areas of the software. So, for example, if I go to Workforce, this is my employee training records, um, applicant maintenance, etc. So maybe, I wanted to add employee training to my screen. I add it, and you know what, I want it right in here in the middle of those. I've added that to my screen now. So again, you'll see a lot of drag and drop, very easy to set up for each person to use it the way they want. So I'll circle back to these in a minute when we go into a module, but a couple of last things I want to talk about that come with our system to give you an idea of the comfort level and how you can hit the ground running. We've got our reports tab here. So I have 4 reports that I care about looking at each day. I've got a reject report that I look at, corrective action, detail records, reject report with graph, and a customer sales analysis. These are just samples of reports that come with the system. We give you over 1,100 canned reports. Now, I like to joke, they'll all be about 98% of what you want them to be. That last 2% is, setting them up the way you want. You get all the tools with the system to be able to modify, create, or change reports. So when I come in, if I wanted this laid out differently, I could use this as a starting point and then create this report or change this report to a way that's more useful for me as an organization. Now, there's also a whole selection criteria you can set up here where if I want to be able to filter by date ranges or company names or things like that, I can then do that and then run the report and pull those back the way I want to see them. So they're really the ability to almost have a query on the screen, on the fly, and not have to print this out to a printer and do something with it. But I do have the ability to have these automatically run and emailed to me every day. So we've got alert capability built in the system that it will automatically generate these and send them to me every day. Or I could come in and run them on demand. Now, this is one way of looking at information in the system. Another way of looking at analytics is through our BI tool. So I've got this business intelligent dashboard. So a lot of people are getting away from those older, report looks and really want to manage things with these dashboards. So I've got a series of things that I care about looking at. Again, each person based on your job function may look at different things. Machine utilization, average scrap, effective cycle, unscheduled downtime. And when I look down here, I've got different formats. So we give you a full toolbox to be able to create these. Choose, again, do you like gauges, speedometers? Do you like funnel type tools? Do you want more of just a more historical line report look? You can do that from these. And you've got the ability to build these and have these monitoring and running live. So these are updating live as I'm looking at these. They will be moving and updating. And it's really a great way to keep a pulse of the company real time. So you probably just saw this move and update because there was basically data being keyed in on the back end in some module. It was updating that for me. One last piece before I go into the software is the My IQMS. This is our user portal. It's the ability to log into My IQMS, post questions to other companies. We have a full training piece built in here where you hire a new employee or maybe somebody's going to cover for somebody else while they're on vacation, and my normal job is not sales order entry. We've got pre-recorded videos, training videos that they can watch. They basically go through doing those, and at the end, it gives you a quiz, and then you can see your results. So you can make sure people know what they're doing. They're for all the major areas of the software, so they've got that ability to do some additional training, watch those videos, get quizzed, see how they do, see what they missed, and be able to go back and work on that. But there's a lot of other things you could do at the My IQMS homepage. I can see support. I can see the community discussion boards, the IQMS blog. And then we even have use the web product ourselves where you've got the web portal and you want to go in and buy something from IQMS, you can do that. So a very user-friendly way to be able to get information both from IQMS, share your feelings, and talk to other users out there on the boards. Now, just in the essence of time, I'm not going to be able to show you all, everything cool because there's so many neat things in the system, but I want to give you an idea of functionality, look and feel, etc. So if I'm sales order entry, customer service individual, and I'm going to go in and enter a sales order for the day, I just select my little speed button here, and it's going to open a screen. Now, this is what's called a pick list. This is a listing of all my existing sales orders out there, and I can sort and filter on any of these columns. So if I come in and say, I only want to see things that have BMW in them, as soon as I enter that, it just came back with just the list of orders that we've done for BMW. Now, maybe I'm using this for some reason. I'm going into a meeting and I want to know, I've been asked by the president how many orders we had from BMW this year. Notice I did a right click. Again, these are all the things I can jump to from here quickly. But if I want to export that and put it right into an Excel report or something on the fly, I can do that. So again, very easy to use. We realize each person may not want to look at this information the same. So maybe I want company name and then the PO column, and then I want the order date column. So each person can rearrange these the way they want, and it will hold that for the user for their view. I sorted on BMW, but maybe I just want to see everything for BMW that went to their South Carolina plant. I can do advanced searches. So there's a little advanced filter over here where I hit that, and it allows me to search multiple fields and then do exact matches, partial matches, strings of data, etc. So now I can really get into filtering and slicing that and dicing that data a little better. That being said, if I wanted to enter a new order, I would hit the new button, or I could have opened one of those existing orders if I wanted to. So it's asking me who the order's for. Now I can start typing in a name, or I can select off a list. So we're going to pick Abco. It gave me an order number. It gave me my default build to and ship to information, and as I hover over these, you can see it gives me a lot of additional detail. One thing I want to mention is you can make any field mandatory. So if we require that they have to put a PO number in there, it won't let them go past that without doing it. Now, this screen, because when we do demos, I have people ask, does it have a column for salesperson? Does it have a column for unit of measure? Does it? We've got everything turned on. So realize this is an order where I have my header at the top, the line items they're going to purchase in the middle, and then the releases in the bottom. But maybe I'm just a simple, heads down, they're giving me a quantity, a date, quantity, a date, quantity, a date. When I come up to the options field, quick order entry, this is basically saying I just am putting in a line item, a date, and a quantity. They're not going to do releases, so I can really customize that again, make that screen as simple as we need, or give people, as if they need more information, then the ability to have more information. We tried to think of everywhere you may need to go when you're working in the software. So in this top part where it's talking about the customer information, if I right-click, I can go to documents about this customer. I can go to customer master, ship to, bill to. So again, we tried to keep in mind places you may need to go when you're working in the software. Now, on the fly, really quickly, I'm going to enter an item for an order. Notice I've got what's called the item number and AKA, also known as. I've got the ability to enter it by my part number, or if my customer potentially calls it something else, enter it by the customer's number, whichever. I can also say filter it and only bring back a list of things that that customer purchases from us. So then it would just bring back a shopping list, basically, of just things that that customer purchases from us and allow me to pick off that list. So I'll say let's go ahead and add something, and again, it would have brought back a list of all kinds of things available, but if I wanted to, I could start looking for anything that had VOL in the description. Oops, and I highlighted that blend volume and added that. It's easy to fix that. So I'm going to pick the volume cup. Now there's a reason I'm picking the volume cup. Again, you do not have to have all these pop-ups and warnings and things turned on if it doesn't make sense to you, but I want to be able to show you that these are things that are available. All of this is in the base package, and it's all things that you can quickly set up by just right-clicking or adding these things. So notice for this item, we charge a setup charge of $150, so it was notifying me of that. I'm like, okay, that's great. Now, it brought in a unit of measure of each's, but again, we have unlimited units of measure. It could be boxes, cases, feet, pounds, again, depending on how you do that. One of the great things in the system is you can actually sell in one unit of measure, maintain inventory in a different unit of measure, and even purchase in a different unit of measure. So for a lot of our customers, if they're doing metal, they may buy sheets or rolls and be paying in pounds or feet. For plastics guys, for example, they're going to basically, they may purchase the material in Gaylords or Super Sacks, then you're going to produce in eaches, and then you may sell in cases, boxes, per thousand, whatever. Now, it also brought in my part number as well as the customer's part number, so I talked about that cross-reference that happens automatically. Now, my cursor has a little man kind of walking. I call it the jumping man. It means it's just letting me know there's lots of places I can jump to from here. So they basically have called. They're giving me a blanket order. I'm a salesperson. I don't want to key in all those line items. So these are all the things I can do down here with that right click that I talked about before. So I'm going to say, well, I want to generate releases. Now notice I got a pop-up saying authorization required. If you're using the quality module, for example, it knows that. It knows for this customer, for that part, I currently have 5 material review boards, 1 corrective action, and 1 deviation currently going on that product. And if I wanted to, I could hop right on over and take a look at those. But I'm like, okay, thank you for telling me. Now, with any of these messages that I'm seeing like this, they can be a stop point that it stops somebody from doing something, and they can't get to the OK button, and they need to have somebody with a higher security level or ability to approve that come over and release it. Or for demo purposes, they allow me to do whatever I want. So I'm going to say, OK, thanks for telling me. That's great. Now I'm going to say I want 10 releases, and we'll take 2,000 per release. I'd like it to start, on Monday, and they want them every 7 days. That's fine. It's giving me a message that lets me know that this quantity of 2,000 does not conform to a container quantity. So if you do full carton sizes, minimum buy quantities, carton sizes, it can actually tell your person that and then tell them it would make the changes for them if they want it to. So would I like to change it to those amounts, yes or no? And I'll say no. And it just told me it's greater than the blanket quantity that I have been given for an open PO. Okay, that's great. Now, you'll notice at the bottom, it put my information in there. It pulled the price from their price table because I went into price breaks. And then down below, it has given me those 10 releases. Now, I could look at these and say, you know what, the 8/31, we need to change that date because it's Labor Day weekend or something like that, and they're going to be closed on the 1st, so I want to push, I want that one to go in on the 28th instead. So I can manually come in and override any of these, or I can leave them the way they are. Now, I also maybe got a call from my customer, and we were going to be shipping this whole order and these releases to this particular location, and when I hover over that, it's in Falmouth, Mass. But they just called and said, you know what, that second quantity of 2,000 that's due on August 3rd, I would like you to sell that. Let me just update that. Okay, I would like to send that to a different location. So when I do that, it brings up all their locations, and we can say we need just that one line release to go to their location in El Paso. And oh, by the way, they're in a big rush for it, so everything else is going ground freight, but this one, they need to expedite that, so just that single one release, I need it to go FedEx instead. So very powerful, gives them everything they need. Great, I've done that. I've put those orders in. I'm on the phone with the customer, and again, we realized during the interaction with your client, your customer, they may be asking you questions that, have to do with other things. I've just taken this information from them. I put this order in, but they're asking me about another invoice that they have a question about. At the top, again, you'll notice we always have these speed buttons throughout the system. I put what's called customer status. So I'm on the phone with ABCO, and I can bring that up, and this shows me for my customer their current over 30, 60, 90s, credit limits, total open, overdue, etc. I can see they've got an invoice here. From here, I could jump right to that invoice because they're saying they had a question, they didn't get it. It even ties back to the packing slip and the order number. I could jump right to the packing slip from here if I needed to. But they're basically just saying they didn't get the invoice. So from here, if I hit reports, print, it gives me the ability to print this to the screen, send it to a printer, export it to a file, email it from right here, and it will send it to them as a PDF, and I could put a little note into the customer or send it to a network fax. So while in the system working on one order, I was able to drill down, see their invoices, and then send that over to them. There's also really nice tools built in. As being a salesperson, if I want to come back in and do some sales analysis, I see all this information about my customer, and I want to go back to 2013, around the same time, and see what they bought from me. So I can go back as far as we've got history, see what their buying trends look like, see what they bought this for before in the past, without having to go out and run a bunch of reports or jump to different areas in the software. So realize just from in this screen, I talked about going to the customer, I went to the item that was purchased, I jumped to the invoice, I could have jumped to a packing slip. I've never gone back to that main screen. So one of the things from here that I might get a question about from that customer is, I'm going to come back to an earlier order. So again, you'll see color coding throughout the system. So this is one of my older orders for that company and the things they bought from me. So I can see everything they bought, and as I highlight them, the colors are changing down below. So when I take a look at this order for this gate latch, I can see down below green has shipped, purple not shipped, yellow a partial shipment. We've got this turquoise that it's currently on a pick ticket. We've got a color that once it gets to the point it's pending inventory verification. And then it will even go to a point of it maybe was a late job and I need to expedite it because it's, we sent them a partial shipment and we have to expedite the rest of it. So again, we use color coding to share a lot of information. They've got a question about this gate latch. They're telling me they didn't get it. I can right-click, go right to shipments. I see my packing slip information, the invoice that was generated from it. Again, jump right into the packing slip. I get my packing slip information. If there was a tracking number, I could see that right here. Also could regenerate a certificate of conformance on the fly if they needed me to, and email that right from in the system. So very powerful, very easy to get to different areas. I'm customer service. I just got a call from my customer, and they've got a job coming up that's going to be due in a couple weeks, and they're asking if they could move that job up in the queue potentially. When I highlight any of these line items and I just right-click in the bottom section, now you'll notice I've got some different selection. I want to look at the work order information. So I want to see if that job is scheduled to run, when it's running, etc. So it actually comes back and says, these are all the work orders that have been generated for that. And it's showing me both the item I'm selling, any raw materials, packaging, etc. that go into making that. So if I come into this next one, for example, highlight that, right-click. This one is a multi-level routing. So you can see I've actually got, this happens to be a molded gate latch. I've got 4 molded parts consuming materials, even a part that consumes some multiple components going into this assembly. And I can see when they're on the schedule for, when they're scheduled to start, when they're scheduled to end. But a really neat feature is once it does start running, a little bar shows up underneath each of these operations and will show me what % through it is. So if it's 50% through production or 75% through, I can actually see that and say to my customer, you know what, I can't get them all to you, but we're about halfway through production. I can maybe get half expedited to you. So this is consistent throughout the software. I could jump to the inventory master from here if I want to see on-hand quantities. I can jump to the shipping documents. Like I mentioned, I could go to invoices. Every area of the software works very similarly. The other thing you'll notice is it has a consistent look and feel. So if I'm the sales order entry person, customer service, the purchase order, which would be the mirror side of that, looks almost exactly the same. So it makes it very easy to cross-train and be able to have people cover for each other for vacations, things like that. So that was a little bit of navigation, a sales order entry screen, how easy it is to jump and move to different areas of the software, jumping into inventory from these screens. It makes it very easy to do these things. See my on-hand, things that are sitting non-committed. I can go into the details of any of that. The time always goes fast. I always have a bunch of great things to show people. I'm going to basically turn it back over to Steve here in a minute to open it up to questions on the floor. But one thing from the sales group that I'd like to mention again is we are more than happy to either via the web or via an on-site meeting show you more of the software. This was just meant to be an ability to give you a little taste of what it looks like, look and feel, and ease of use. But we would really love to customize a presentation to you and your company. So I know Steve will be giving some contact info in a minute, but please feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to have the local salesperson for your area from IQMS be able to talk with you more in depth about your company's needs. Steve, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, I thank you, Heather, and thank you, Juan. The question bar is now open. If you type a question in there, we will answer it, and we have about 10 minutes. So dive in, guys.
And I will take a quick drink while we're seeing if there's questions out there.
Okay. There's a question about, explain again, you said it was one native system, one integrated system?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I'm summarizing. You mentioned that it was one native system, that the modules were one database.
Yes, absolutely. So everything is on a single database. So there are companies out there that have ERP and they partner with another company or purchase the company to do the machine monitoring side of things. That is not our approach. Everything that was on that screen when I talked about modules and functionality are developed by IQMS, supported by IQMS, and run on a single database. So for example, this shop floor view that I'm showing you right now with the machine monitoring, not everybody can do that day one, but they know they'd like to at some point down the road, or they've got certain pieces of equipment that they want to hook up immediately, but maybe not all of them. This functionality, the real-time functionality, is actually loaded on your system when you buy the system. It's sitting there. We're collecting historical data. We're just waiting for you to be ready to turn it on. Literally, it's a phone call or an email to us. Hey, Heather, we're ready for real-time monitoring now. I want to do my first 5 machines. We send you an email with a license file, and you turn it on. Preventive maintenance, same thing. Maybe you don't do it phase 1, but we've got all that historical information in the system. You call me in 3 months or 3 years, and you're ready to turn that module on. It's, again, phone call, email to us. We send you the license key, basically, and it turns that module on for you. So it doesn't require anybody coming out, us coming out and reloading something, buying something from some third-party vendor. These are all our pieces of software developed by our people and supported by our people.
And then another one, and again, I'm paraphrasing just a little bit. How much do implementations cost, and what about data conversion?
Sure. So our customers tend to run about 50% of their software price spent on implementation. So, I'll just pick an easy number. If you had $50,000 list price of software, you'd probably be looking about $25,000 worth of implementation. Now, that's basically taking the averages over the years of all of our customers. You might be somebody who your data is in good shape, you've got a good grasp on what's going on, and you could go faster than that. We also have some companies who basically say, you know what, if I'm doing this, this is an opportunity to correct all the sins of the past. We're going to change our part numbering scheme. We're going to change how we do things. We're planning on acquiring a company in Mexico next year, and they want to make a lot of changes. That adds a little more time in there. Data conversion, static data, things like items, customers, vendors, balances, that data, we've got basically a 2-step process where we export that data out. You get the ability to what they call scrub or clean it up. Take out, we haven't done business with them for 10 years, or, that company isn't around anymore. Clean the data and then import it into the system. So it isn't a direct dump into the database of, the way it is now when everything goes in. You actually get an ability to kind of clean that and fix that data and then bring it into the system. And that's right in our terms and conditions contract is a list of, probably 30 areas. But the big ones companies usually ask about items, customers, vendors, balances. Those are all standard. As long as the data is good, you trust it, and you want to import it, you can. If not, you can start clean.
Okay. There's no more questions showing up there. We've got to get people back to their desk, and we've got a second webinar to do on the hour. So what's going to happen, we're going to email you guys all a link to a recording of the webinar, and also in that email we will include the contact information so I don't have to read it off and you guys have to copy it down. So we'll send you an email here in just a little bit with the link and all that stuff. We thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate the time, and hopefully we'll see you on the flip-flop. Talk to you later. Bye.